I'm Jeff Elstead, proud superintendent for the Owatonna Public Schools. Thank you for spending some time with me tonight. This is the first of what I hope to be an annual State of the School District address. I wish we could have all gathered together at Owatonna High School auditorium tonight, but for COVID safety reasons, I'm coming to you via video. It is my hope that next fall we can all be together for this event. At the end of this presentation, Michelle Krell, our Director of Teaching and Learning, and I will take questions from viewers. Please email any questions that you may have to stateofdistrict@isd761.org. Again, that email address is stateofdistrict@isd761.org. As I mentioned, I am very proud to be the superintendent of this school district. I'm proud of the work that we have been able to accomplish, and even more proud of the work that we are doing right now. I would like to spend my time with you during this presentation to talk about what we've accomplished and what lays ahead as part of our ongoing commitment to you and the entire Owatonna community. In 2018, our school board adopted a 5-year strategic plan that embraces our mission to inspire excellence for every learner every day. In my eyes, a mission statement needs to be a guiding principle that motivates and inspires those involved with the organization to engage in the important work. I believe that educators have a front row seat to inspire our learners every day. Throughout my travels I've seen this inspiration each and every day. I see it through the eyes of our children when they have one of those many aha moments, when they learn to read, or when solving a math problem finally makes sense. The time when I see our young musicians play through a piece for the first time, or hear our choirs hear the beautiful harmonies that blend our voices together. Seeing young student athletes compete and learn how to engage in teamwork, and watching them learn how success involves working hard through defeat and difficulty as we learn and grow. Watching our robotics team go through the process of ideation and implementation to see a robot come to life before their eyes. I'm so fortunate to see these affirmations of excellence every day. Part of my role is to communicate the potential of our staff and students so clearly that they begin to see it themselves. That's why I'm so proud of the way that our staff creates the conditions for that potential to grow. To support our mission, we created 4 commitments to guide our work. 1, create 21st century learners. 2, provide a safe and caring community. 3, promote equity that really, truly, and demonstrates that all means all. And provide high quality teaching and learning. I'd like to walk through each of these commitments and lay out some of the work that we have already accomplished and what we are working towards right now. First is creating 21st century learners. Last March 15th, our journey took a major turn due to the coronavirus. This required us to take a quantum leap in 21st century learning and multiple crash courses on the tools and resources necessary to connect with students in a way that had never been done before. With all new learning, mistakes were made, and with those mistakes came frustration, anxiety, and many other emotions. However, through this steep learning curve, we were able to find new ways to connect and offer our students learning, and certainly new ways to teach content. I want to be clear that this commitment does not just rest on the laurels of technology, but also on making sure that we are committed to creating critical thinkers, collaborators, and community-focused learners. If you were to poll employers of any vocation, I believe they would tell you that they are looking for motivated learners who can think critically, collaborate with teams, and find ways to give back to their communities. As we venture forward, one example of our work is initiated through our new Career Pathways program at Owatonna High School. Through this program, we will better prepare our learners for the next step in their journey, be it through specific career training, military, or attending college. Over the past 2 years, we have also begun to offer more exploratory courses at Owatonna Middle School to provide unique opportunities for our students to explore different interests and careers. To offer students and families more information, we've also initiated a new software program called Naviance that charts student progress and works to match student interests with employment needs in other particular fields, and identifies both direct and indirect pathways to get there and to find success. One major step towards creating 21st century learners is building the new Owatonna High School. We are in the final stages of designing our new high school building. Our next step will be moving from design to technical drawings, with construction bids going out in early 2021. We are excited to break ground in March or April, and will invite the community to join us as we invite you to dip the ceremonial shovel into the ground. I am proud to report that this project is on time and on budget, with our grand opening scheduled for August of 2023. I am especially excited for the new career and technical offerings and opportunities this new school will provide for our students. We owe many thanks to our community for supporting our vision through their yes votes last November. Secondly, safe and caring community. Did you know that over the course of this past spring and summer, our school district provided nearly 160,000 meals for our children in the community, and also provided much needed childcare for our critical and essential community workforce. Our commitment to a safe and caring community has driven our staff to find ways to not only create community-focused students, but contribute to a greater cause themselves. For over 200 years, communities have relied on the public education system to provide invaluable services for our communities. In fact, two famous framers of our Constitution, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, could not agree on much, but they did both believe that providing an education was the cornerstone of an educated society. Through the years, the community grant demands for schools have grown even greater, calling for mental health supports, safety and crisis training, English language supports, health services, individualized learning plans, and preparation for the world that awaits our students after graduation. While the demands have been great, our district continues to lean into the challenge to make sure that our students are receiving exactly what they need to succeed. We remain vigilant in our efforts to keep our buildings safe while working hard to mitigate the pandemic with clear procedures for cleaning and disinfection. Next is equity. The tragic events highlighted this past summer with the killing of George Floyd serve as a constant reminder of the work we need to do to eradicate systemic racism that exists in every community. Schools have long been the place where social issues and justice find themselves. Dating back to Brown versus Board of Education, the decision in 1954 where public schools became a meaningful centerpiece of making meaningful change. At that same time, our schools serve as a microcosm of our society, and as such, have not always reflected the kind of social justice progress necessary. Disparities exist in our schools, and it is imperative that we continue to encourage courageous conversations to learn and do more and speculate less in our search for truth. Over the past 3 years, our school administrators have been engaged in a program called Courageous Leadership that encompasses a 2-year commitment to identifying our racial biases based upon our backgrounds and experiences, then developing an action plan that addresses any systemic racism that is present. This program has certainly been eye-opening, and I believe has been a watershed moment for our school district in learning to understand each other versus seeking to be understood. Furthermore, this past year, 80 of our staff began their journey as courageous educators to understand more about how race impacts our lives and the lives of the students that we serve. More importantly, I am proud to report that over 40 community leaders from Owatonna have joined us and invested their time and energy into making a difference in our community as courageous community leaders. The late Senator Paul Wellstone coined the phrase, "We all do better when we all do better." This phrase is a call to action for each of us to do our part to end racism and forge a better path forward for the future of our children. Last is high-quality teaching and learning. If the past 6 months have taught us anything, it's the fact that we have provided education, and how we've done that will definitely be different in the future that we see. Education delivered in its typical form was quickly replaced by learning that learning can happen at any time and in any place. In our school district, this transformation took place in the span of 3 days. We learned quickly how to navigate learning management systems, Google Meets, and Zoom meetings. While this learning the past spring was not ideal, we did learn some critical things about how important personal connections and relationships really are. In addition to how quickly students are able to adapt and learn new things. That's the beauty of teaching and learning. It's a work in progress, and each evolution requires trial and error. Over the summer, our educators dug into this critical conversation and new learning tools that we are now using to enhance those learning opportunities for all of our students. The Owatonna Public Schools have committed themselves to being lifelong learners. Did you know that 2/3 of our staff have a master's degree in education and are always seeking new ways to learn how to teach better? In fact, many of our staff have been asked to be presenting at professional conferences around the country because they're leaders in a particular field. I am very proud of our commitment to high-quality teaching and learning as we look to extend and look to find the next generation of learners and how we need to evolve with them. Supporting all of this work on behalf of our students, our staff, and our community takes resources. While the bulk of education funding comes from state and federal governments, school districts also rely on their local communities for support. To that end, the November 3rd ballot will include 2 school funding requests for the Owatonna Public Schools. I'm now going to share a short 3-minute video that explains what those requests are and why they matter.
In Owatonna Public Schools, we have many reasons to be Owatonna proud. Our high school graduation rate is consistently higher than the state average. 2/3 of our teachers have master's degrees. All our staff are committed to providing the best learning environment possible for our students. 9 out of 10 residents give us high marks on teacher and educational quality. Providing a quality education takes resources. While we do our best to stretch every dollar, that is becoming increasingly difficult. Since 2003, state education funding has not kept pace with inflation, leaving us with a $3 million funding gap. We also pay nearly $7 million annually for unfunded mandates that are not being reimbursed by the state or federal government as promised. Our voter-approved operating levy is in the bottom third of the Big 9 schools. These levies are one way local communities support their schools and help pay for school operating costs. We've done our best to meet these financial challenges, by tightening our belt and cutting $2 million from our budget this year. But this is not sustainable. After months of reviewing options, the Owatonna School Board unanimously approved placing 2 school funding requests on the November 3rd ballot. Question 1 would simply renew our existing operating levy that voters originally approved several years ago. The average homeowner would see a 50-cent per month tax increase for an inflation adjustment. Question 2 asks voters to reinvest through a levy increase. To be respectful of voters, the levy would be phased in with no levy increase and no tax impact in 2021. In 2022 and 2025, the levy would increase with the tax impact of about $10 per month in those 2 years for the average homeowner. If voters approve both questions, the district would be able to continue providing the quality education our students deserve and our community expects. If the 2 requests are not approved by voters, millions more would be cut, with impacts felt at all levels and all schools. In 2019, our community approved bonds to build a new Owatonna High School, but those bond funds can only be used to build or repair buildings. These levy requests are for operating dollars to support the learning that takes place in our classrooms. Levies support teachers, classroom supplies, custodians, instructional materials, teaching assistants, transportation, and more. Our residents recognize that strong schools help build strong communities, and they see the value of their return on investment. We've kept our promises to our families and to our kids. This fiscally prudent and conservative approach combines belt-tightening through budget cuts on the district side and a request to voters to renew and increase our operating levy on the community side. Much more information can be found on our website, and please remember to vote on November 3rd.
In conclusion, while this has been a year unlike any other, we remain committed to our mission of inspiring excellence for every learner every day. Throughout the past few months, I've been able to truly reflect on my why, to keep me grounded in the work as a superintendent. You see, I wake up every morning looking for ways to make tomorrow better and to communicate that potential so clearly that people start to see it in themselves. For me, it's using my mindset and my choices to make a difference by providing the best educational experiences possible for our students and our community. I'm so proud to be the superintendent of this school district and a proud member of the Owatonna community. I am proud of the way we have stepped forward to put our children and their futures first. And I am proud of seeing the wide support for schools and looking to further secure our future together. Owatonna, though we may not get knocked down, we will always rise again. Thank you for your continued support of our schools and our students. Strong schools truly do make strong communities. And that is why I am Owatonna proud. Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you for taking time to watch the short video and really talking about some of the commitments that our board is committed to, and certainly the pride that we all have in our school district and the pride we have in our work to come. We are going to change gears with our program this evening and go from that message to questions that you might have as community members. And again, I would ask you that if you have a question you would like to ask of myself or Ms. Krell, that email address is www.isd761.org, State of District. And again, please make sure, and we'll utter that again. I believe actually I had that wrong. I think it's www.stateofdistrict. Thank you. Stateofdistrict.isd761.org. Sorry about that. And again, please feel free to send us your questions. Tonight, as I mentioned, we have Ms. Krell, our Director of Teaching and Learning, myself, are taking these questions and providing you the answers tonight. We also have asked Mark Sebring, our school board chair, to help us with this question. So he is actually reading the questions that they come up and will be our reader of questions tonight in preparation of this. So thanks again for joining us for this second part of the first annual State of the School District Address. And at this point, we'll open it up to questions.
I'll start the questions tonight, and Ms. Krell, the first question would be directed to you. And can you talk about the start of the school year and how things have changed over the summer from how the previous school year ended and what you learned and how things have started this year?
Absolutely. First, I want to say that we've had an extremely smooth start to the school year. I think that we took a lot of information from what we learned from crisis distance learning last spring and took that information, identified barriers that our students and families or staff may have had, and really worked together collaboratively to create 3 different models that would meet the needs of our students. And I couldn't be more proud of the work that's been done by our teaching staff and our administration as we look at being able to provide a one-to-one initiative for our students, ensuring that all of our students have a school-issued device, gaining more hotspots for students that need those when they're doing distance learning or in the hybrid model, being able to provide families with obviously the choice of distance learning. We had about 20% of our families who chose distance learning in our district, so creating a framework or a system for that. But really taking our priorities and making sure that we prioritize what we believe are really important things. The foundation of learning for our elementary students is critical. So having them in person 5 days a week was really important to us. So a lot of work was done and figuring out how we could utilize every staff member possible, get our class sizes down to be able to do that. Our middle school, high school, identifying how we can still continue to provide the opportunities in a hybrid model and what the best hybrid model for us was. And, our staff has been second to none. Amazing. They have had the best attitude, the can-do attitude, do whatever it takes to ensure that we're doing what we need to. And honestly, the first day of school said it all. I know they were smiling under those masks. The excitement of our students, we hadn't seen them in face-to-face for 6 months. And so for us to be able to see them, our staff, our students, our families, were so excited. And I think that we learn from these kinds of challenges because I think through great challenges come great opportunities. And we are better as a school district because of the challenges we've faced. And that has made it so we will not do education the same way we always had for years and years and years. It's surely catapulted us to the next 21st century learning commitment that we have. So I'm extremely pleased, excited, and couldn't be more proud of our staff and our students because it has been a really smooth start.
Mr. Elstad, I'm going to follow that up with the state of Minnesota uses a matrix for determining whether our students are in person, it's a hybrid approach, or distance learning. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that impacts the students in our district?
Yeah, certainly. We spent most of late last spring and summer with staff really sort of coming together on what's the best way for us to provide within those 3 models. But the matrix we were given in late July really helped us and gave us guidance as to the model that we needed to be in based upon the rate of transmission for our county. And so they're using a factor to help us with determining how many cases there are per 10,000 in each county. Just happened to have 36,649 residents in Steele County. Not that I was looking or keeping track of that. But when we take that number, we end up with a quotient of 3.65. And what we do then is we take a rolling 14-day case of the number of cases that occurred over a 14-day period, divide that by 3.65, and we end up in a spot where it leads us to a number. Within that matrix, what the Department of Ed gave us was between 0 and 9 cases per 10,000 gave us the opportunity to be in person for all of our students. I believe that we would all hope at some point that we acquiesce to that number and that we can contain the coronavirus to a point where we can engage all of our students every day in learning. The second piece of that was between 10 to 19 cases led us to a space where we could do in-person learning for our elementary students every day, and then also have our 612 students in a hybrid model. Then if we moved forward into 20 to 29 cases, that means that we would be in a hybrid model, meaning that we would have our elementary students actually are set in hybrid right now, even though they're in person every day, but it leaves us to a spot where we would have to do some other things to really start to help meeting the needs of trying to keep groups together without having them mix at all. If we went from 30 to 49 cases per 10,000, it led us to a spot where we would be in hybrid for elementary, and then we would actually have to turn to distance learning for grades 6-12. And then, of course, if we had 50 plus cases, distance learning for all. So we're using those as a guide. There are a couple factors that are interesting about this number, because in some cases, like our neighbors to the west in Waseca, had a recent outbreak. What was discovered is that a number of those cases were associated with the prison in Waseca, which meant that they didn't have any connection with the school necessarily. So again, we have to take those into play. The other part would be is thinking about if we happen to have long-term healthcare facilities that happen to have an outbreak that don't necessarily, again, have a connection to the school district, it leads us to a space where we have to take those factors on top of where that number is and decide, are we having to shift to a different model, or do we not have the transmission in schools or community spread that we're looking for that would drive us to that? The current rate that we have, and again, if you follow the Department of Health website, they're lagging about 2 weeks behind. Because they're still tabulating numbers. At last count, we were at 19.05, so we were high. We have been working really closely with Steele County Public Health, and I can't say enough of great things about the leadership and the staff at Steele County Public Health. They meet with myself and Michelle, as well as our Director of Human Resources, along with superintendents from New Richland, Heartland, Ellendale, Geneva, Blooming Prairie, and Medford, because we all have connection to Steele County, and we talk about what that looks like. The beautiful thing is we're seeing that number go down, and so at last count we were drifting below 15 cases for 10,000, and that was the most current count that led us up to this past Monday evening. So again, we're headed in the right direction. The model we're in right now, of course, is in-person learning for all of our students in the elementary, and we have hybrids set up for our 6-12 students.
Thank you. Mr. Elstead, coming back to you, the next question has to do with the new high school. The voters approved a school bond issue back in November of this past year, and a fair amount of time has passed. Not very much time, but a fair amount of time has passed. Can you talk about the progress that's been made so far?
Yeah, I think there's maybe a misconception at times that once a bond issue is ready that the high school should really be breaking ground. We took extra special care to make sure we were gathering insight and input from a number of different constituents, leading us to a point where it takes about a year to design a comprehensive high school because it's a big space. There's lots of moving parts with it. So over the past year, we have been in the design mode. We started out with kind of setting, what are some things that are important to Owatonna that would really drive this high school to be representative of our community, all the way to the final detailed designs around where light switches need to be and where sinks need to be and things like that. So we're reaching the final stages of our design. Like I said, we have over 300 participants that have participated in the design process itself. The next step of this is once the design is complete, then they'll move into technical drawings. So architects and engineers will be working hard on putting all of the drawings necessary and construction documents, which then leads us to the next phase of the process where we go into a bid cycle, where we go out and we put out scopes of work. Those scopes of work are bid on by different construction companies. It is an open bid law sort of situation where we take in a number of bids for that scope of work, and we again take the lowest bid that's provided for the school district. Those bids are set to go out in January of 2021. The next stage then will, of course, be groundbreaking, and that's where the public sort of re-engages with this process. As I mentioned previously, we're hopeful that we can have a little bit more public celebration, and that maybe we'll have an opportunity later in the spring to be together, to, like I said, to really dip those ceremonial shovels in the ground. And then we start to watch a high school really take shape. And, the crux of the work, it's a 2-year construction project. And on any given day, there could be as many as 75 to 100 employees working at the high school at different factions of the work. We're set to open the new building in August of 2023, and we are so excited for the opportunities that the new high school will bring us.
Will you remind the viewers of the location?
Yes. It's actually located real near the new Highway 14 intersection where Highway 218 and Highway 14 meet on the very south end of Owatonna. A great location for those that are traveling to and from the high school from out of our district, as well as just a really nice location to be kind of out of the center, so we have a little bit more space for parking and things like that.
Ms. Krell, the design of this new school will certainly have a much different look than the school that was built in 1921. Can you talk about how teaching and learning has influenced what the design of the new school will look like?
Absolutely. We have looked very carefully at what high school should look like in 2023 and really envisioned what those exciting new opportunities. We believe that students should have relevant, authentic learning opportunities to ensure that they're life, college, and career ready. We have been partnering with a number of different organizations, community. One of our partnerships is right now with Riverland Community College. We actually received a career and technical education grant, and we are in the planning phases of starting a licensed practical nursing program within our high school. So Male Health Systems has graciously donated a nursing lab for us, and so that's part of that design phase. But the teaching and learning of that, there's lots of work going into our Career Pathways initiative. And there are a multitude of expansions that we're making because we will now have the facilities. I think in particular, I think about our ag and career and technical education programs and how we'll be able to expand those. We started an automotives program this year, but we'll be able to expand that once we're in the new facility. We will have space for agriculture and test plots and things like that. Looking at we just got a Grow Your Own grant, and so that is where we're cultivating our next generation of educators. So we want to be able to create opportunities for our students to become the next educators in our district, and they'll potentially earn 9 college credits towards that. We're looking at our college in the school courses and how we can expand those, our culinary arts, our music programs, our theater programs, all of those will be able to be expanded. And we've taken all of those considerations into play as we've designed the building. And hundreds of hours have went into that design phase. And then also the phase of really looking at what can education look like. Our students deserve an education that prepares them for the future. And sitting in a desk learning like we did 100 years ago isn't that fashion. And so we're extremely excited about the multitude of opportunities we'll be providing for students because of the expanded facility and the updates that will be there.
The tag on to the question, and it's for both of you, a person that walks in the front door for the first time, what are words that come to your mind that would describe the look and feel of what they're stepping into?
I'll start. After a collective wow, I think what they'll see is this is Owatonna High School. And what I mean by that is that there are certain pieces that have gone into the elements of design of this building that are reflective of the history and tradition of Owatonna, Minnesota. And so when you walk in and you see Owatonna, that I think will be one of the first thing that strikes people.
And you will see also premier programs that will be unique to Owatonna on display as you walk into the doors of the new Owatonna High School.
Thank you. Mr. Elstad, the next question would have to do with the levy. And can you talk about that and why now? Why the levy now? And Didn't the voters just approve more money for schools? Can you talk about that?
Thank you. I'll take on the first one, the why now first. In 2013, we passed a 7-year operating levy. And again, those of you that were able to view the video before, there's a clear difference between bonds and levies. Bonds are for building, and levies are for learning. And as was mentioned, and I guess I'm addressing the second part of the question too, it's important to know that I've been asked that question a number of times. So, we just gave the school district some money to build a new school or for other purposes. And so anyway, what I want to say to that is yes and thank you. And it takes both the funding we get for the facilities, which come through bond referendums, but it also takes the learning or levy dollars for us to continue to offer the quality programming that our community has come to know and expect. In 2013, as I mentioned, we passed a 7-year operating levy. We're coming up to the end of that. In fact, in June, our current levy will sunset. Without having those levies in place, we will be forced to make approximately $8.5 million worth of cuts over the next 2 years. What we've done is we've already cut $2 million, and we made a concerted effort as a district to make sure that we weren't impacting classrooms. But we're at the point where any further cuts will impact class sizes. We'll have to reduce teachers. We'll be reducing support staff, administration, and all of the activities and clubs and things that our students have come to love, which is part of the fabric of our community. So again, it's important for people to know that these are important issues that are on the ballot, and I just hope everyone can get out and vote on November 3rd.
One of the follow-up questions that has come in has to do with the levy, and why is Owatonna's operating levy lower than others in the Big Nine?
Well, there's a couple of ways I would answer that. The first of which is I believe Owatonna has been incredibly fiscally responsible with the dollars that have been provided. We have been able to try to do more with less, which has led us to a point where we haven't asked our community for large levies. If you look at some of our nearby neighbors, in fact, if you were to look at Northfield, they're the highest per student levy in the conference. They made a commitment to that just a couple of years ago, and they really maxed out their levy. So the interesting thing is that if you reside in Northfield, the students there are getting about $1,000 more of funding than they would in Owatonna. So we've been fiscally prudent. I think we've been fiscally responsible. But we're also at a point where those dollars cannot be stretched any further, and we're losing ground because of the difference in the funding gap that was explained between what the state has provided us versus what the rate of inflation has been, which has put us into a spot, unfortunately, where we have to be out asking our public and our local taxpayers to help cover some of that gap.
Thank you. Ms. Kroll, there's a question that came in, and I'll read it verbatim. It's a great question, and I know that it's on the minds of quite a number of the parents. How is the effectiveness of the current hybrid learning model being monitored for students? For the last 2 weeks, my sixth grader does not have more than 2 hours of schoolwork for Wednesday through Friday. I'm very concerned these students in the hybrid model are receiving a subpar education this year. This is a topic that we've heard discussed at school board meetings. Can you address that?
Yes, I can. One of the things that we felt was extremely important is to ensure that we were building relationships with our students. And I think that was very, very clear that was their number one priority. And then making sure that we were able to onboard students with the technology that we had. So there's some onboarding that happened with all of our students to ensure that they were able to start to work through that. I know that we've had conversations, and leadership teams are talking about and trying to survey and figure out exactly what it is we need to do to ensure that we're going to provide a quality education for all of our students. I think the other thing to note is that our middle school students, because they're on an AB day, some of our students, not this Monday, but the last Monday was the first day that actually they saw the B day, because we have an A group and a B group, and they have to go through an A day and a B day. So some of our students were getting their B day a week ago. And so unfortunately it's slow to go fast, I believe, but know that their education of our students is of our top priority, and we continue to work hard to engage and make sure that we're providing that. And so that feedback is really important for us, and we're going to learn and grow and certainly become better as we go through this new process. Unfortunately, it isn't something that we wished upon ourselves, and we're going to certainly do our very, very best to meet the needs of our students.
If I might add to that, I think it's important too for our community to understand that our educators have been asked to support 3 different learning management systems at the same time. So our teachers are having students in front of them at the hybrid on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, but they're also supporting the needs of the hybrid learners that are now at home trying to work on the things that they were presented on the 2 days they were in person. And furthermore, on top of that, we're providing full distance learning for students that are choosing that option. So we've got a number of things in play here, and what I would say is that we are gathering input to try to make sure that we're providing that quality, because that certainly is our intention. But I would also say that it's taking some time for us to see and find a cadence and stride as to how this is going to go. There's also a differentiation between families, because some families have the technology and are really feeling good and they want to move forward more quickly, while we have other families that are still trying to figure out how this all works together. And so we're trying to be cognizant of that and bringing people along. And I think what Michelle said was slow is fast. We recognize, though, that as we start to find this stride, that I think parents will see a change in kind of the rigor of the coursework that's coming to them.
And I do believe our teachers are working tirelessly to meet the needs of students. It's just a lot. It's very challenging times for all of us, but I couldn't be more proud of the hard work that they're doing and the fact that they're willing to learn, grow, and become better as we go through this.
That's the lead-in for the last question of the night, and that would be, and each of you, if you wouldn't mind taking a half of this. Mr. Elstad, I'd like you to talk a little bit about what do you see on the faces and in the eyes of your staff? And Ms. Krell, can you talk about the students? What do you see when these kids are walking through the front door of school each and every day? Mr. Elstad, would you start with that with your staff? Tell us about your staff.
I will. I would say that the first day of school, there were tears by everyone. I saw parents crying because they had re-engaged in school or perhaps were dropping their kids off for their very first day of school. I saw students that had tears in their eyes because they wanted to be in school so bad and this was their opportunity to re-engage. But I also saw staff with tears saying, I haven't seen you for 6 months. I mean, we're in a people business. And so the emotion that we saw with that, I think, is something we see almost on a daily basis. There are other days when I look at our staff and they look tired. They're exhausted. I think we're all COVID exhausted. And what I would say is that I want to just echo the comments that Michelle made around our staff is working so hard to try to get this right. And what we've talked about is that there's this feeling with staff, and we've tried to communicate that we're trying to provide clarity versus certainty, because the one thing we don't know is what tomorrow will bring for us. But with clarity, we build processes, and those processes take time. So when I say staff are exhausted, it's because they're like, there are so many systems and processes trying to work together because we can't gain any certainty. So again, when I see it in their eyes, but I also see a staff that is working so hard and are so committed. Our staff are there at 5:30 in the morning, and they're there till many, many late hours in the evening, trying to make sure that we're doing things the best we can do them. And so I'm very proud. But again, I see emotion, all sorts of things, and I think we all experience that as we've gone from basically March 15th till now, wondering what tomorrow will bring.
Ms. Krell, how about you? Tell us about the students.
There is so much joy in our students. If you were to come at the beginning of an elementary day and see those little elementary students just as eager as can be to see their teacher and the relationships that they've built, our middle school, high school students are just so happy to be there. I think we assumed maybe we would have mask issues or things like that. We didn't, and I think it's because our students are committed to doing whatever it takes to be in school with their teacher, with their peers, There's a lot of joy, and that's why we went in. That's why our teachers and our staff are in this business, is to see the joy in the faces of our students and to know that they're making a difference. Because I think that, no significant learning happens without significant relationships, and, the relationships and the excitement in our schools, it's truly there, and we couldn't be more happy. And every day we get with our students is a blessing.
Thank you. That does it for the questions. I want to thank the viewers for tuning in and watching this. I'll turn things over to Mr. Elstad for a closing comment.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to really thank everyone that joined us this evening. This is a bit out of the realm for all of us because, as I mentioned previously, being gathered together in an auditorium or someplace where we could see each other's faces is certainly our preferred way to do business. But what I would say is that this, I hope, offered you an opportunity to get insight into the school district and kind of how things are going. I would also share with you that, the African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. I can't thank our parents and community enough, so many times over, for the flexibility, understanding, and support that you provided the school district, because you understand that school is a critical cog in the wheel of society. And we know that the cart got upset last March, but you have leaned into this as a community to support us. And I can't thank you enough for that support. And we are going to continue to come to work every day to try to do better tomorrow, provide the best quality education we can. And I believe I would say for all of us here tonight, we're all Owatonna proud. Thank you.